Anyone who decides to handle customs import-export issues without training to do so, is asking for problems. The United States Customs and Border Protection or CBP agency has over 500 pages of regulations for every item that is imported into the United States. Additionally, there are thousands of tariff items that can come into play in the import process. Getting the facts about import tax. Almost everything that enters the United States has an import tax. Under customs import-export laws, it is confusing as to what the cost is. Most people don't know what their import tax will be until they get the bill. Importers are overcharged at the nation's borders because they do not properly classify the items imported. The United States Harmonized Tariff Schedule or USHTS explains how materials are classified. Determining what must be paid for imports. Customs import-export taxes are based on where an item comes from and what type item it is. The USHTS allows for finding the cost for almost any type item. A 10-digit classification number, a description, and a duty rate represent every item that enters the U.S. It is simply a matter of locating an item and its origin to find out what the import tax will be. Should an item be classified by the recipient? Because any item entering the U.S. is classified before it can be received, it is much better for the recipient to find the item and classify it. If customs import-export has to classify an item, it charges a fee to the recipient. Import taxes are a way for the government to limit or encourage the importation of certain items. When customs import-export is involved in classifying items, the cost to the recipient can be high. The three purposes of the United States Harmonized Tariff Schedule. The first duty of the USHTS is to impose taxes on imports, which is second only to the IRS in revenue to the government. The next purpose is for customs import-export tracking, which helps the government understand trends and decide on controls of certain items. The last and most complicated purpose of the USHTS is to enforce political agenda by raising or lowering duty rates on any selected items. How to get help on import-export costs. A downloadable database is one of the better ways to keep up with customs import-export taxes and tariffs for custom brokers and anyone who imports or exports products on a regular basis. This is the best way to keep up with customs import and export information. It is much easier to find rates by entering search words than it is to manually search for items. This service is prescription-based, and not for the one-time importer. Importing and exporting of goods costs money in both tariffs and duties. Most people have concerns for the total cost of anything they purchase, and the USHTS is the best way to determine the costs of import taxes. Allowing customs to determine classification generally costs more.